Sorry if that got a little blurry. Um, so today's film, to start December, I was actually watching a film that's literally just expired on Filmstruck, so you cannot see it. So if you um, want to see this movie because I said I liked it and watched it on Filmstruck, unfortunately, it has expired. And this is Peter Bogdanovich's 1974 film, Daisy Miller. This is considered a flop. It's a not well liked film. There are, however, some reviews from the time when it was released that put it in the top of the year. There's several people who were really gung ho for this film, but mostly it's considered um, a disaster in the canon of Bogdanovich. I have to disagree and think I think it's a great film. I think Bogdanovich was trying to do something with Miller, not Miller, Henry Miller, Henry James that doesn't quite lend itself to James. But I also think that James is a poor man's Edith Wharton, and yeah, I said it. And I think the main problem in this film lies in the fact that the character of Daisy Miller is not well written. I think probably I haven't read the source material, so I can't actually say. But I of the James that I've read, um, it's very similar to the sort of sphere that Wharton covers in her novels. But Wharton actually was a woman of that time, and it comments on women from a point of view of having lived it. And I think James comments on women from the point of view of having seen it, and that's not the same. And so what you get from Miller is this, from Daisy Miller, from the character, is this very vapid seeming girl, and Cybill Shepherd plays her perfectly. But when I think it's a similar character to the one featured in The House of Mirth, but in that character, you understand why she is the way she is, and you feel empathy for her and humanize with her. And you never really do with Daisy Miller because I don't think she's established well. And perhaps in the book she gets established better, but in this, she's just sort of a flighty American who is mostly you never really see her, partly because the story is told from the point of view of Friedrich Winterborn. You have him showing you her, and so what you get is his view of what she's like instead of an actual idea of why she's like the way she's like. And I feel like Cybill Shepherd probably had ideas behind why she did what she did with this role that doesn't make it into the film, probably because the point of view is so steadily in the male gaze, and that's not just because it's directed by a man, but because that's the story is rooted in how men perceive women. And it was used to show the perception of Americans versus Europeans, and expatriates versus Americans. But I don't know that it's done in a way that really accomplishes what it thinks it's accomplishing, and mostly because the Miller character is not given true humanity. And that's a failing, I think, at the core of the story. But with the film that we're given, it's beautifully edited by Verna Fields. It's beautifully shot by Alberto Spagnoli, and I think all of the acting is really great. You have a cast that includes Cloris Leachman and Eileen Brennan, so you're getting some great women here. And it's the art direction is absolutely gorgeous. I just think it's a case of this character should be better, and I feel like a lot of the blame gets laid on the actress when it's the character at heart that is flawed and not representative well. I did not talk about the plot. Apologies. The plot is Daisy Miller and her mother and her young brother are visiting the continent, and they're nouveau riche. They're a little, not used to social norms, other than the way they behaved in Schenectady, New York, and they meet an expatriate in Vevey who kind of wants to introduce her to his aunt, but his aunt is very closed-minded and very, like, doesn't meet anybody. And he finds her a bit brusque, but he also is very attracted to both her beauty and her free-spiritedness. Later, they reconnect in Rome, and because she is so not interested in playing the social games, she flirts and she meets Italian men, and she just does what she feels like doing, and the expatriates cannot handle it. And this man, who may or may not be in love with her, but who never gets to know her well enough to actually know if he loves her, fails to help her out of, falling down this path, or to understand who she is and maybe really be something for her. Because all you ever see is his failings. And in the end, because it's one of these stories, her free-naturedness ends up getting her getting malaria, which is like that Death in Venice sort of era thing, and dying. And so she has to die for this freedom, which I also think is just bullshit, at the root of the story. And then everyone talks about what they thought they knew of her, but you never actually get to really know her, and that's, I think, a failing in just the whole story. And the fact that I think it's terrible that women are used as pawns like this. Like, she's a cipher for James's ideas rather than a real character, and that's bullshit. That said, I enjoyed this film because I think Bogdanovich really tried to create more out of what he was given than I think is ultimately there. It's beautifully shot. It has a great final sequence. Sorry, I spoiled the whole movie. It has a great final sequence at her funeral in the cemetery with the fog, and it's gorgeous. So you cannot watch this on Filmstruck anymore. It just expired. I got it just under the wire. It may or may not be on DVD. I'm really not sure. But if you can find it, definitely check it out. This is 1974's Daisy Miller. If you've read the book, let me know if I'm way off base. I actually kind of want to hate read it now, but I also would rather just read the rest of the Edith Wharton books that I have on my shelf than read another Henry James. So this is 1974's Daisy Miller.